You're not lazy, you're not broken, you're just stuck in a loop that looks like rest but feels like suffocation. You wake up tired even after 8 hours of sleep. You scroll for comfort, but it leaves you emptier. You keep waiting for a motivation to hit you like a wave, but it never comes. And deep down, you know something is off because no matter how many planners you buy, no matter how many YouTube videos you binge, how many times you say, okay, I'll get this thing together, this week I'll do it, nothing really changes. You light a candle, you clean your room, you try, but the fog stays, and it makes you wonder, is this just who I am now? You remember a version of you that was more alive, more hopeful, more clear. Where did she go, and how do you get her back? The truth, she's not gone, she's just buried under pressure, under performance, under years of carrying things no one ever saw. I have been through this too. There was a time when I thought success was everything. I thought I had to hustle hard 24/7, prove my worth with every project, every task, every hour. I'd push myself to the edge, burning through my energy because that's how you win, right? But then I'd look around and realize it wasn't just my body that was tired, it was my soul. I remember one day standing in front of a pile of work I'd just finished, feeling very accomplished but completely drained. And as I looked at my to-do list, I felt this gnawing voice in the back of my mind. Is this it? Is this all I have to look forward to? The truth is, I was stuck in the overachiever trap. I was so obsessed with doing more, getting ahead, and being productive that I forgot what it was like to simply be. I was so used to saying yes to every opportunity and every request that I forgot how to say no to things that really, really drained me. And slowly, day by day, I lost touch with who I really was. Underneath all the achievements, I began to feel like I was living someone else's version of success. Someone who needed to prove herself at every turn, and somewhere along the way I forgot that real success is not measured by how much you do, but by how alive you feel. It took time to realize, but I didn't need to keep running just to feel valuable. I had to unlearn this addiction to productivity and start reconnecting with the quiet parts of me where peace and not performance lives. Identity, the real problem, emotional layer. You keep telling yourself it's a motivation problem. You scroll through productivity hacks, try new routines, romanticize the idea of starting fresh on Monday. But the truth is, it is deeper than that. You're not unmotivated, you're not overwhelmed. Your nervous system has been running on empty for months, maybe even years. You've been waking up every day in survival mode, where even brushing your teeth feels like a task, where answering a text back takes too much energy, where your dreams feel too big for the version of you that's just trying to get through the day, if you know what I mean. You've convinced yourself that you are just lazy. But what if you're just exhausted, not physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually? You've carried so much for long, expectations, guilt, self-doubt, that now even the idea of hope feels heavy. You've become a master at pretending everything's fine, smiling in conversations while your mind screams silently, pushing through achieving, performing, because slowing down feels like failure, because rest feels unsafe, because somewhere along the way you equated your worth with how much you could endure. And here's what no one is telling you: healing is not aesthetic. It's not always journaling under fairy lights or sipping tea with a face mask on. Sometimes healing is letting yourself lie on the floor and do nothing without guilt. Sometimes it's letting your room be messy, your to-do list unfinished, your heart cracked open. Sometimes growth doesn't look like becoming a better version of yourself. It looks like sitting with the version you abandoned when things got hard. Looking her in the eyes and saying, I see you, I'm sorry I left you behind. You are not broken, you're just tired of pretending you are okay. And that's where real healing begins. Emotional truth, releasing self-blame. You didn't choose this version of you. This wasn't part of your plan. You didn't wake up one day and decide to feel stuck, lost, or even disconnected for that matter. This version of you was shaped slowly by tiny moments of being dismissed, overlooked, or expected to hold it all together. By promises that weren't kept, by responsibilities that weren't yours, by love that came with conditions. So, no, it's not your fault. But what happens next is your responsibility, and that's a quite kind of power, because healing isn't about doing more, it's about doing differently. It's about finally giving yourself permission to stop running, to stop escaping into your phone, your work, your people pleasing tendencies. It's about arriving fully in your own life, not to perform, not to prove, but just to be. It's letting go of this obsession with control, how you should feel by now, where you should be, how productive your healing should look. You don't have to fix everything today. You don't have to become your best self overnight. You just have to come home to yourself softly, honestly, gently. Less perfection, more presence. Less self-criticism, more self-connection. When you let go of the shame, you create space for softness. And in that softness, you begin to rebuild. The escape plan, how to get unstuck. So how do you escape? Not by running faster, not by forcing yourself into hustle or obsession or yet another fresh start, but by slowing down and listening. Listening to what your body has been whispering beneath the noise. Listening to the version of you that's tired of pretending. Step 1, get still, not forever, just long enough to hear the silence, because clarity does not scream, it whispers. And if you're always rushing, escaping, performing, you'll miss the soft voice that says, you are safe now. You don't have to survive this way anymore. Step 2, make one tiny promise to yourself, not a 5-step morning routine, not a 90-day plan, just one thing. Drink a glass of water, open the window, step outside and feel the sun on your face without trying to be anything for anyone. Then keep that promise, not for discipline but for trust, because that's how you rebuild relationship with yourself, one kept promise at a time. Step 3, rewrite your story. Not the version that was handed to you, not the one shaped by other people's expectations, but the one that feels like home in your chest. Ask yourself, who am I becoming? Not who you were when everything fell apart, not who you've been pretending to be to make others comfortable maybe, but who you truly are when no one's watching and you're finally free. This isn't about fixing yourself. You were never broken in the first place. This is about returning to the soft, strong, still place within you. The grief of growth. No one talks about this part, the part where growing hurts, the part where you start to bloom and somehow feel broken at the same time, because real growth doesn't just feel like progress, it feels like loss. You're not just stepping into a better version of yourself, you're also buying versions that carried you through the hardest parts of your life. The version who kept quiet to keep the peace, the one who lowered her voice, shrunk her needs, made herself easy to love, the version who survived through control, through people pleasing, through pretending. She was never weak. She was protecting you, and now that you are healing, she has nothing left to protect you from. But saying goodbye to her still feels like grief, because in some way she was home. So if you feel sadness in the middle of your glow up, that's completely normal. If you feel resistance when everything is getting better, that is normal too. You are not backsliding, you're just letting go. And letting go is emotional even when it's right. Sometimes growth looks like crying in a room you just cleaned. Sometimes it looks like deleting a number you used to dial in your lowest moments. Sometimes it's just sitting alone in silence and finally feeling the weight of what you have outgrown. This grief, it's sacred because it means you loved those versions of yourself and now you're loving them enough to let them rest. Loneliness in healing. Now, healing sounds beautiful, but sometimes it feels like no one claps for you anymore. No one checks in, no one gets it. Because when you start to heal, you stop being who you used to be, and some people only knew how to love that version of you. You stop laughing at the same jokes, you stop entertaining the same chaos, you stop saying it's fine when it's not, and slowly, silently, some people start to disappear. Not out of cruelty, but because your peace no longer fits their patterns. And that's where the loneliness sets in. Not the kind where you're physically alone, but the kind where you are emotionally unreachable, where your heart feels like a different language, where you outgrow conversations that once made you feel seen. It hurts because no one wants you. Healing isn't just about becoming whole, it's about letting go of what made you feel needed, even if it broke you. It's about standing in your new energy, even when no one recognizes you anymore. But that loneliness is not the end, it's in between, the space between who you were and who you are becoming. And in that space, you will meet new connections, deeper ones that don't need you to shrink or mask or perform. But for now, let loneliness be your teacher. Let it show you what you used to accept just to feel loved. Let it show you the sacredness of your own company. Let it remind you you are becoming someone who doesn't need noise to feel full, someone who doesn't need validation to feel worthy. And that kind of solitude, it's not a punishment, it's a preparation. Redefining success. You've been chasing success for so long, but have you ever stopped to ask, whose definition are you chasing? Success has always been painted in loud colors, trophies, milestones, job titles, numbers on a screen. You were taught that you would feel it when you got there, but now you're older and there doesn't feel like you thought it would. You hit goals, you crossed the finish lines, you smiled for the pictures, but inside something still felt hollow, because success that comes at the cost of self is just survival in a fancier outfit. So now is maybe the time to redefine success. What if success isn't the promotion, but waking up without anxiety in your chest? What if it's not about the money, but it's finally saying no without guilt? What if it's not the applause, but sitting in silence and feeling peace instead of emptiness? Success can be soft, it can be slow, it can look like just getting out of bed when everything in you wants to disappear. It can look like choosing rest without needing to earn it. You've been conditioned to perform your worth, but your real success, it doesn't live on your resume. It lives in your body, it lives in your breath, it lives in the relationships where you can finally be seen without explaining yourself. Redefine success, not with someone else's blueprint, but with your own heartbeat. Let it be gentle, let it be yours, let it be enough. Choosing yourself quietly, daily, softly. Choosing yourself isn't always loud. It's not always a dramatic exit or a big announcement. Sometimes it's a whisper, a quiet moment where you say, not this time, not at the cost of me. Because the world teaches you to abandon yourself for approval, for peacekeeping, for being liked, even when you're breaking. But healing teaches you the opposite, that choosing yourself doesn't have to be hard or harsh. It can be soft, it can be gentle, it can be something no one else even notices, like drinking water before checking your phone, like walking away from the conversations that drain your spirit, like giving more yourself 5 more minutes in bed without the guilt, like saying, I don't have the energy today, and letting that be enough. You don't need to prove why you deserve care. You don't need to perform your pain for it to be valid. You don't need to explain why you're protecting your peace. Choosing yourself is not selfish, it's sacred. So choose yourself not once, not just when everything breaks, but daily, quietly, softly, again and again, until it becomes your rhythm, until your nervous system learns that you are no longer a danger to yourself, until your body starts to believe we are safe now. That's how healing happens. Until one day you look in the mirror and see someone you trust, and maybe that's the most powerful glow up of all. You were never broken. Let's be clear. You were never broken. Even in your darkest seasons, even when you abandoned yourself to be loved, even when your dreams felt dusty and your light felt dim, you were not a failure. You were a human, a soft, feeling, trying, breathing human. And you did what you had to do to survive, even if that meant staying small, even if that meant pretending to be okay, even if that meant putting everyone else first, because no one ever showed you how to choose yourself without choosing love. But now you know better. And knowing better doesn't mean you'll never fall back. It just means you'll recognize when you do. You'll catch yourself with kindness. You'll come back home to a quicker, softer, more whole you. And that's what healing is. Not a destination, but a deeper and deeper return. So if no one told you today, you're doing better than you think, you're not behind, you're becoming. And I hope you carry this truth with you, not just for today, but for the quiet days when doubt tries to crawl back in. You don't need to be fixed. You just need to be found by your own presence, your own power, your own permission to begin again. And when you're ready to take that next step, I'll be right here waiting for you with another gentle reminder that you are not alone, that you are already enough. Until then, take care of the softest parts of you. The world needs that softness more than you know. See ya.